as it should be. And we've been driving around trying to find some hot spots of, people still maybe being in the French Quarter or even on Bourbon Street. And it's pretty dead for the most part. There were a couple of people out kind of enjoying their last, I guess, freedom day before the storm hits. But for the most part, we are seeing the streets being very light. Also, some folks have stand pads placed out, of course, so we know that they're going to be a heavily flooded area down here near the warehouse district, and also some hoarding of some businesses. So, of course, again, all those things that we would expect to see when we're talking about significant damage coming and what we're anticipating from a storm like this. We did also drive around and we noticed that a lot of gas stations were out of gas. A lot of the pumps were blocked off, taped off, and even unplugged. They weren't even operating. So if that's something that some folks may want to hold off and do until the early morning hours, you may have to do a little bit of searching before you are able to find some. But for the most part, we are waiting for this area to start experiencing some more of what is to come. Those outer bands that we were talking about that we're now seeing on the coastal areas of the state. But right now, again, it is pretty mild conditions for the most part, off and on light rain and not really a heavy breeze. So again, it should be some time now before we start experiencing some of the
Hello.
from this area before we get to the thick of this storm. But this is what we're seeing right now in the warehouse district, and we'll hopefully hear from Peyton in a little bit to see if he can predict when we're get some of that heavier rain in this area. But for now, we're reporting live in the warehouse district. Dr. Staples, I will continue. Thanks, Josh. And I was actually just asking Peyton what's going to be the first impacts for that CBD area. He says winds can
Right now,
as of almost
just showing some the New Orleans version of what's going on. And you go.
All right, let's check out the Bayou regions. Danny Monteverdi is watching conditions in downtown Thibodeau.
Here in downtown Thibodeau, Rox's bar is locked up tight. It would typically be a lot of activity here on a Saturday night. Same for the rest of the bars down the street. But everything is closed up and locked up ahead of Hurricane Ida's arrival. You can take a look at another business here in downtown. It's got shutters over the windows in anticipation of what's headed this way. And that's Hurricane Ida, a powerful storm that's expected to make landfall near Terre Haute and Lafourche parishes sometime on Sunday. The weather right now, it's very quiet. Not a drop of rain, not even a breeze, but it is that sticky, muggy feeling.
Hello.
Something is in the air. Something will change. Reporting in downtown Thibodeau, Danny Monteverdi.
Showing the New Orleans feed right now.
Thank you very much, Danny.
Hey there, Gordon and Twitty.
And we want to
Let me turn this volume down to here.
Doug, I know a lot of times I live in the North Shore. People think, oh, we're fine, we're in the North Shore, but this time, I mean, it really has implications. It is a Category 4 storm.
Yeah, we good over here in the area where I'm at. We're gonna be right on the outer bands, and we should be looking as of the 4 o'clock report yesterday. We were looking at about 30 to 60 mile an hour winds, but it has actually started to push a little bit more to the east. So it's going to be helping us. Thanks for the prayers. Everybody on the Gulf Coast, we're always praying for everyone else.
We have seen multiple national companies that are here and set up. We're in a little hotel area of Hammond where there are multiple hotels around here, and the hotels are all with electrical workers who are geared up and ready to move into the areas and get people's power back on as soon as the storm is over. We shot some video of that. A company called Nixon.
Yeah, it looks like New Orleans is going to get hit pretty hard on this. That's why I have the New Orleans station up right now. It's the home in New Orleans area is about 110, 120 miles from us. New Orleans is about another 50. So, we're looking pretty good right here, but it's going to devastate the area it's at. They're looking at 130 to 140 mile an hour winds, 10 to 15 foot tidal surge with it pushing up in the area. It's going to be bad. It really will. Could be stronger than Katrina was. I was watching a couple other videos earlier this morning, or a couple other live streams, and they were saying that New Orleans already has 2 feet of water in some areas. It's hard to believe that's true. If it is, that means the pumps aren't working, and if the pumps aren't working, it's going to be bad.
We've seen bucket trucks and all kinds of variety of electrical trucks with things that dig in the ground, I would guess, to replace utility poles if need be. All kinds of trucks. I'm not sure what a lot of them do. It's not exactly my field of expertise, but it is nice to see them here. They're here in big numbers. I heard Jade say that a few minutes ago. The crews that Entergy has, and there are a lot of those companies are outside of Louisiana.
Yeah, the area is going to be hitting. They were projecting it to pass up the Atchafalaya Basin, which, I mean, the people that live in the basin would be bad, but it would affect a lot less people. But apparently, it's moved a little bit more to the east. That little wobble to the east it's having, it's at some point it keeps pushing a little bit further to the east every time they do an update on it. The eye is supposed to hit around, I think, 1 p.m. this afternoon. It's supposed to touch land. It jumped up. It was actually supposed to be around 7 p.m. tonight. And they sped it up yesterday at 4, so it might actually come in a little bit faster than what they expected. So it might be a little bit earlier than that 1 p.m. It's going to be bad, though. It really will. There's a lot of issues that potentially could happen in the areas it's at.
You can see the track there, though. That red line is the center line. And yesterday what we were watching was it was tracking north and east of the center line. This morning it's been tracking right along the center line. So we're pretty confident this thing's going to come in. And there's a 100% chance that this is coming to southeast Louisiana at this point. There's no getting around it at this point. Now, that's where the center line currently tracks. And the exact landfall of this eye is going to be important. It's not a big eye. It's only about 20 to 30 miles big. It's not tiny, but it's not a giant. Right now, it takes it over Port Fourchon and Grand Isle. It takes it, straight up, like driving up LA1 there through Lafourche Parish is what it looks like. So that's going to be moving up through Lafourche.
He's getting ready to give some good information. He's repeating this. He did it about 20 minutes ago. He's going to give you a lot of information about what's going on with the winds in the different areas in New Orleans and how the flooding and the tidal surge is going to push up.
But you still got strong winds. So the big question right now is where is landfall and who sees the most significant surge? With this track here, it's possible that parts of Terrebonne and Thibodaux miss the worst surge, but it's no guarantee. All Ida has to do is track 10 miles this way.
Good morning, Mr. Bob. How's it going, brother? This guy seems to have it pretty accurate. Right now, he's talking about what's going on and the potential flooding and the winds and everything. He looks like he's restarting it. He did this about 20, 30 minutes ago and really informative about what's about to take place in that area or what could possibly take place in those areas.
They would take the brunt of this hurricane as that eye wall would just scrape across the coast here with its 140 mile per hour, 130 mile per hour and 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Now let's track this line.
I was watching another live stream earlier this morning, and she heard that there's actually 2 feet of water in some portions of New Orleans already. It's hard to believe. I mean, if they already have 2 feet of water in some parts, the pumps aren't working, and it's going to be devastating. So, praying that was misinformation.
Is about 20 to 30 miles wide, which means if you take half of that, that's 15 miles. So if this is the center of the eye, and you go about 15 miles away, that's where the eye would be. But you got to remember, the eye wall is going to be on this part. So that eye wall is possibly going to come right over the New Orleans metro. The eye wall is where you have the most intense winds. It's where you're going to have the worst part of the hurricane. That eye wall is going to extend all the way around. The Category 4 is not lopsided.
Oh my God, that's That's so scary, Mr. Bob. Really is. It's been years since I've been to Houma. I used to stay out there a lot. It's built up a lot, but man, they're looking at some pretty heavy winds and potential flooding coming that way. Wow, we're gonna pray for them. Wow, 3 kids, man.
New Orleans is right on the edge of that eye wall, and that's where we would be getting hammered with those hurricane force winds over 100 to 110, maybe 120 mile per hour wind gusts, possibly in the New Orleans metro this afternoon. So conditions will go downhill pretty fast. The conditions are already going downhill near the coast. You got to be hunkered down if you live anywhere south of the lake starting this morning. On the North Shore, this morning it's going to be a little breezy, but you have around lunchtime before things really start to pick up there. So that's what we're looking at with the track of this thing as it moves through the river parishes. Now let's go a little bit further to the north here to show you where the track goes.
We're gonna be lucky. We're can't see the mouse, but we're off towards the Lafayette side, where the Abbeville. We're right next to Abbeville, and we're looking at some 30 to 60 mile an hour winds over here.
Really hammer this in on what we're dealing with. This is a Category 4 storm. We have not had a Category 4 storm make landfall in Louisiana. I'm gonna have to go back and think about this. I guess since Betsy in southeast Louisiana. Katrina made landfall as a Category 3 right on the mouth of the river, and then made landfall as a Category 3.
To live in such a beautiful area, everyone on the Gulf Coast, Mr. Bob, to live in such a beautiful area, to have these hurricanes, the potential for the hurricanes that we have at the worst possible time of year, it's devastating. We're lucky to be able to have, the fishing, the hunting, and, it's hot and it's humid, but it's a beautiful place to live. And then, you have this potential for these huge, devastating hurricanes that come in at the worst part of the year for it to be possible, to have that heat and the loss of electricity and the issues getting gas and everything that goes along with it. It's really, it's a shame, but everybody has to deal with something. I'd rather deal with hurricanes and forest fires and tornadoes. At least we have days to plan and get things ahead to be able to work with it.
We'll get our 4 a.m. update within probably the next 10 minutes or so. We'll see if they bump this intensity up to maybe 140 miles per hour by this afternoon. Rainfall will be around lunchtime along our coast. The worst of it will be in New Orleans this afternoon, same in Oklahoma. And as we go into this evening,
The landfall's moved up a little bit earlier too. It was 7:00 p.m. yesterday at noon. At 4:00 report, the landfall was reportedly supposed to be around 1. Now he's saying around noon. So the hurricane's moving pretty quickly.
Let me time it out for you with our model right here. I think this model is doing a pretty fantastic job of depicting what we got going on. We've already got heavy showers and gusty winds moving across the area. This is mainly on the South Shore, but we'll start to see
Garden of Twitty, the hurricanes, my house is right at 100 years old. It's overly engineered. They have tongue and groove on the outside walls, inside walls, same thing on the roof. 130 miles an hour, we wouldn't be here. But, 60 to 80 mile an hour winds, we're going to stay. It's not something that we can, walk away from, depending whether the hit's coming from. If we got a direct hit coming and we're going to be on the east side of it, we got to leave because the storm surge in a Category 4 storm is just going to push water way, way, way above what we're normally seeing. The area we're in, we've been lucky that we haven't had any type of really big storms come in. Normally whenever we get a direct hit, it's a Category 2 or a tropical storm, and we end up, part of living right here in my house is, we end up with water in the garage. That's part of it with the bayou. It's the only reason I was able to afford, the place I have. So, we deal with it. We know what we have to do. We stack things up, and that's what I've been doing the last 3 or 4 days. And it's, it's not the best, but it's not horrible. We learn to live with it. Exactly. Hey, Ryan, how's it going, brother? We're looking good on this end. Really looking good. It's sad for the people in the direct path of the hurricane because it's going to be devastating. There's going to be a lot of flooding and a lot of wind damage. Really is. It's sad, really sad situation for a lot of people.
New Orleans and through the metro, we're gusting to 60 to 70 miles per hour by 10 to 11 o'clock. All right, let's go towards 1 p.m. Let's say 1 to 2. Really rough down here along the coast. 130, 140, maybe even higher than 140 with our gusting times. That's as the eye makes landfall. Winds will start to gust closer to 100 at Homa and Thibodeau by 1 to 2 o'clock. New Orleans will start to see significant wind gusts of 70 to 80 miles per hour by 1 to 2 o'clock. And then we'll be looking at winds continuing to just hammer the area through the rest of the afternoon. Most of this afternoon, it's going to be rough. It's going to be scary for some people who stayed back. These winds howling, and you can see that winds gusting over 120, 130 for Homa and Thibodeau, and creeping up towards the New Orleans metro as we get to
Mr. Bob, your daughter and your grandkids and all that over there in Homa, do they live in the city or do they live on the outskirts of it?
It's just not going to be a quick event. It's just not. It's going to last through most of the afternoon hours, it looks like. And let me just put this in motion here towards 7. This is 6:30 to 7. And give or take an hour on that timeline. It's a very rough estimate. We will be gusting to near 100 in New Orleans, probably over 100 at times. Thibodeau and down through Lafourche, gusting over.
My youngest daughter stayed out in Baton Rouge. She's going to college over there, and we tried to get her to come home. She's been pretty hard-headed about it. Her boyfriend and a couple of the roommates, her roommates, they're hanging out, and we're pretty scared. They're looking at 70 to 90 mile an hour winds around. Well, once it starts getting dark around the 6 to 9 o'clock time, the hurricane's going to be passing around Baton Rouge, and it's going to be. She's never been through something like she's about to go through. Very worried about her. Subdivision on the west side. Okay,
maybe 9, 10, 11 o'clock, we can start to see Baton Rouge, and that will continue to the center of this thing is closer to Baton Rouge.
98 miles an hour in Baton Rouge, they said around between 9, 10 o'clock. The Lafayette area is where I'm at. They're showing 60 mile an hour winds. The local station last night said we'd be looking at 40 to 60. I'm to the southwest of Lafayette here. And that there's going to be a big difference in the amount of wind that we get from right here into Lafayette because of the track kind of going that northwest as it hits land. So that's going to push Lafayette. Peanut, if you know Peanut's going to be basically Peanut's between Lafayette and Baton Rouge, and he's looking at potentially anywhere from 60 to 90 miles an hour. Thank you, Kinfolk Farms of Georgia. We're looking at this right now. It's going to be devastating for the path where the hurricane's at. We're kind of to the west. Well, we're a good portion to the west of it. And we're looking at 30 to 60 mile an hour winds. It looks like we're going to be spared. It really does in our area. But the area that the storm's passing through is going to be devastating.
So many areas to watch, so many impacts. Thank you so much, Peyton. I asked you to talk about Baton Rouge because one of our producers.
It is a big one. The meteorologist was just saying it's been a long time since we've had a storm of that magnitude hit. I think Katrina got up to Category 4, but it dropped at Category 3 right before it hit land. This one right here, they're predicting is going to be a Category 4 clear up into land. In 10 minutes at 4 o'clock, they're going to be readjusting, or they're going to come out with the new forecast, and they're thinking that the winds might have picked up another 10, 15 miles an hour since the last update. So it's looking at winds possibly 140 miles an hour.
And I mean, we get on TV and nothing like actually going through it. nonetheless, I am prepared. I've got my flashlight, my portable fan.
It's hard to be prepared, you know,
Right now, so that
with something as big and devastating potentially as what's getting ready to hit in that area. It's hard to be prepared, especially if you're within 50, 60 miles of the coast, because you don't know what's going to happen with the storm surge. You don't know what's going to happen with the rain. You don't know with the flooding, you know, how much is going to back up. You know, it's been years. A lot of things have been built up. Something that might not have flooded 10 years ago, you might end up with 6-7 feet of water. You know, other places that have flooded might not have as much flood water because of the drainage systems changing and everything. You don't know. It's been so long since something like this has hit. And, you know, Katrina was the last hurricane that hit the area, and thing in the areas going, things have built up a lot. See, we don't have any wind right now. I've been up since about 2:00. The wind's dead. You know there's a hurricane coming in. You can smell it. There's nothing moving. There's no wind moving. There's no breeze right now. It's a smell you get. It's something different in the air. It's scary. You know, if the hurricane would have tracked, you know, another 30 miles to the west, 40 miles to the west, we wouldn't be here right now. We'd have evacuated. The issue with the evacuation, they're showing, you know, there's no cars on the road right now. At 10 o'clock last night, basically from Baton Rouge to the Texas border was bumper to bumper, not moving. The people were complaining there's no gas at the gas stations along the interstate. You know, it's rough. It's a bad situation for no matter what you're doing. If you're staying home, if you're moving on, it's, you know, evacuating. It's a bad situation if you didn't prepare. Our preparations, we got 60 gallons of gas, which will run us right at 8 days, 9 days, depending on how much we put on the generator. You know, if we got to pack up, if we end up packing up and leaving, we bring the gas with us, only because there's most of the time there's no gas along the road where you're trying to leave. We also pack food because wherever you end up with is going to be overrun with a bunch of people again, because they're all moving on and trying to get away from the storm. So grocery stores and stuff will be, you know, not wiped out, but it's a lot easier to bring your groceries instead of fighting with all the people trying to get stuff. It puts a big strain on the areas where people are evacuating to. And it always seems that people are evacuating to the same areas. When the storm first came, you know, people would tell us to evacuate, or when we first heard about the storm. And the thing is, you know, where are you going to evacuate? If you go to Florida and the storm bumps, you know, we have family that lives in Florida. Got a little bit of rain hitting outside right now. But if you go to Florida and the storm moves, then you end up with, you know, you could end up in a worse situation. Staying in a hotel room with a storm passing through, you know, that's not my idea. My house has been here for 100 years. I choose to stay in the house to a certain point. You know, we know where the flood is going to be. We know where it's at. The house is 6 feet off the ground. We'd have to have a storm surge of, you know, 12 to 13 feet hit the area before we'd start looking at some serious issues of water potentially getting in the home. But the picture she's showing right now is in New Orleans around Bourbon Street. There's nobody moving around. There's not a whole bunch going on. You can see the winds are starting to move the trees.
Luckily, there's not a lot of folks on the roadways. It is still pretty early, so that's kind of typical at this time. But if you don't have to be out, of course, we are asking everyone to hunker down in your safe place. The shelter is definitely one of those things that we've been trying to tell you guys that you guys need to be aware of. And also, we know that the city is also helping folks with that shelter if they need it. I know that Mayor Cantrell did tweet out earlier today, or excuse me, yesterday. We don't know what time it is at this point. But she tweeted out saying that they're helping residents who need assistance with getting to some shelter. They do have some homeless shelters that they're taking folks to if they need the help. They do have room still, I believe. So if you are one of those folks that kind of making a last minute decision on staying or leaving, you might want to try to get in touch with those folks to be able to get better shelter. But again, this is kind of just a time where we just kind of wait, watch, and see and prepare.
This is the scary part of the storm. It's about 7-8 hours from hitting land. So the wind should start picking up in the next hour or two in that area. We should start seeing some winds in my area probably in 3 to 4 hours, 5 hours.
We're going to hit the eyes for you guys out here so you don't have to get out and try to be your own meteorologist or reporter. So count on us for all of your latest updates for this.
The biggest issue with people whenever they hunker down is they want to leave and go see what's going on in other areas. And with the flooding and the winds and everything, they end up stuck in a ditch or their vehicles are drowned out because they were being nosy and going around. You know, people that hunker down and stay home end up with a lot less issues than the people that wants to be running around and taking a look at everything.
That's right. It's almost 4 a.m. and if you're just joining us, Hurricane Ida is a Category 4, expected to make landfall sometime later this around lunchtime. All right, let's get over to Jake with some things you need to know. Right here is a look at what you need to know ahead of the hurricane. Last year, 9 of Louisiana's 42 storm-related deaths were due to carbon monoxide from pumper generator usage. So remember to never use a generator inside your pump garage or carport. It should always be placed outside in a well-ventilated area. Generator should also be at least 20 feet from your home. And it's a good idea to double-check the exhaust to get it away from the events that lead into your home. The director of the Orleans Parish Communication District says when winds start to reach a high speed, public safety response may be altered, delayed, or stopped.
Yep.
911 calls will still be processed, but once winds pick up speed, first responders may not be able to respond to your emergency. This is to help ensure first responders are also safe as Ida passes through.
Exactly, Mr. Bob. They go looking around. When the flood waters hit, winds are still 60, 80 miles an hour, and they'll jump in a little, everybody around here got little boats. Even I have one, and they jump in the boats in 30, 40 mile an hour wind, and they go out there and end up the boat turns over. Or they're riding around and, I got a big 4-wheel drive truck, and they're riding around pushing water in people's homes. The water's right at the point of getting in, and they're pushing water in the homes, and it's a sad situation just because they're being nosy.
That we've been experiencing a lot of heavy rain, a lot of windfall, just experiencing a lot of that at this time. And so we're here again at St. Bernard Parish, just monitoring those conditions, seeing exactly what we see here again. This is the wall that's pretty much closing everyone in here inside the electric protection system. That is keeping people safe, also in the lab studio at this time as well. That is also keeping people safe. When we are on the level wall, that is when there's a situation where people who have been outside of that, which means outside of the electric protection system, that's where advocates have been speaking with a lot of those families to make sure that they're safe at this time. So again, we've also got St. Bernard Parish Sheriff Deputy, again, the doctor doing an amazing job in Jacksonville, just monitoring those conditions, just having people out and about, making sure people are not out and about, to make sure that they're safe and up and down at this time. Of course, as our weather experts have been telling people, they should be inside, making sure that they're safe. So again, that has been the case that we've been out here. We've also experienced a lot of lightning strikes, a lot of thunder as well. So after this, we're going to try to move and get to a place where there's some shelter so we can be safe at this time. But again, just monitoring those weather conditions, pretty much wind gusts, stop, and then repeat pretty much since we've been out here about 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning. We're going to toss it back to you all in the studio.
They should be coming up with their new, there it is, the updated.
That's right. So this system continues to strengthen. No surprise here. Now the National Hurricane Center has bumped up the intensity. Now we're looking at 140 miles per hour sustained winds. Notice the wind gusts. That's Category 5 winds right there with the wind gusts. Again, that is not sustained, but it is pretty strong. They're coming in at 165 mile an hour winds. This is a very strong, powerful hurricane, and we're already going to see some effects and feel some effects from the outer band. So it is moving northwest at 15 miles per hour. It's about 7 75 miles south of the mouth of the river. So it is getting closer. We are starting to see that heavy rain, that tropical rain, now pushing in along the coastline this morning. And as Peyton mentioned before, the weather will continue to deteriorate from the morning and the afternoon. Now, I do expect landfall somewhere along Terrebonne or even Lafourche Parish later on.
Oh, that's a new chart. That's going to really push the storm away from us if it passes like that. The new tracking.
45 miles per hour wind. And the motion of this system here will have those winds out of the south and east. So that is going to continue pushing that water into the mouth of the river, and that is going to continue that rise. So that's why we are pretty confident we are going to see flash flooding across the area. Once on land, the system will slow down. Levels with the rain, many areas will pick up between 10 to 15 inches of rain. And then keep in mind another tropical threat, storm surge. So when you combine the storm surge and also the heavy rainfall, it is going to take some time for that rain to drain out of the system here or out of the lake. So we're looking at a flash flood situation for many areas. And again, it is going to continue to weaken once on land, but we're looking at heavy rain through the area throughout much of the day, even into tomorrow morning. As we take a look at the current radar, already picking up on heavy rain across southeast Louisiana. Notice east of New Orleans picking up on the heavier intensities here, indicated by the oranges and the reds. So this is going to be pretty much the setup throughout the rest of the day. Right now we are dry on the North Shore, but that is going to change within the hour here. Notice the forecast line here. That's that red line. Again, if it shifts to the east or the west, nonetheless, we are going to see very strong winds out of the system, especially when it makes its landfall later on today. Again, we are seeing the heavier rain band starting to push into the area right now as we speak. So winds are also starting to pick up along the coastal areas. Notice right on we have
Ryan, I'll take a hurricane most of the time over the snow and the cold. We know they come and we know how to deal with them, just like you guys up there know how to deal with the snow and the cold, brother. I couldn't deal with it, especially where you're at. I couldn't deal with the snow and the cold in Ohio. I can imagine another probably 800,000 miles further north.
So North Shore, again, we're expecting rain between 6 to 10 inches of rainfall, and then storm surge along the lake. We're looking at Lake Pontchartrain between 4 to 7 feet. That's a lot of water, especially in portions of Mandeville. We need to monitor this forecast. As we take a look at the metro New Orleans area, again, the closer you are to the center of the system, that's where you'll find the strongest winds around that eye wall. So we're looking at rainfall between 6 to 10 inches of rain, and then storm surge between 5 to 8 feet. So that is along the lake there, Lake Pontchartrain, and you could potentially see between 7 to 11 feet. As we take a look at the river parishes here, rainfall between 5 to 10 inches of rain, and some areas locally may see even more than that. So that is catastrophic. We're looking at heavy rainfall for these areas, and then again combined with the storm surge, as I mentioned before, it's going to take a while for the water to drain out of the lakes there. And then notice the winds. That is sustained winds between 80 to 90 miles per hour, and we could potentially see 110, 130, even 120, 120 to even 130 miles per hour winds. And storm surge around the lakes between 3 to 8 feet there as that water pushes up. As we take a look at the bayou parishes, I do think the bayou parishes will see the brunt of this storm. In terms of rainfall, 5 to 10 inches, and then the storm surge between 10 to 15 feet.
Yeah, I couldn't deal with the snow. It's tough. My body don't like cold, Mr. Bob.
As we take a look at Cape Bernard and Plaquemines, rain between 4 to 8 inches rather, and then winds between 90 to 100.
Pop said when he got back from Vietnam, he said it felt like it was cool front coming into Louisiana in the middle of August.
Catastrophic rate of I would take a look at southeast Louisiana or southern Mississippi, we're looking at rainfall between 4 to 8 inches of rain, and then storm surge between 7 to 11 feet, again along the coastal areas.
7 to 11 feet. That's amazing.
And notice the intensity of rain. So right now we're looking around 10 o'clock this morning, and the winds will start to pick up as well. Look at yours, 85 miles per hour winds.
Michelle, I want to jump in there while you're talking about winds, because it seems in this 4 a.m. update, that was the biggest change. Am I correct? That the winds are so much stronger.
That's right. And of course, that's a big difference because the last update, it 140 mile per hour winds. Now we're at 145,
Yeah.
but I think to make a note that we're looking at.
It was all my wife knew, also living in Ohio, living in the cold and everything up there. And I sent her to Louisiana in August after we'd been dating for a few months. And then if you can make it in 2 weeks in August after going from Ohio, you can move with me. And she came and made it. She suffered the first year, but she made it. Now she said she ain't never moving back.
And potentially that could be more than that. And when we're looking at the lake areas, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Borgne, we could just see 8, even 11 feet of storm surge. So that is catastrophic, coupled with the amount of tropical rain we're expecting.
And Payne was saying earlier that the 157 mark would be the sustained wind we use to get to a category 5. So we're
Correct.
seeing gusts of 167.
Correct. That's
but
that
until
burst
they're
of wind.
sustained, it will change the category.
And it's possible. It's possible. So I mean, the environment is favorable, right? But right now we are running out of time for this thing to continue to rapidly intensify. So again, we're starting to see the heavier rain bands moving into the area, and this is going to be pretty much throughout the rest of the day where we're going to see heavy rain, that tropical rain, and also the wind will continue to pick up. Baton Rouge, I do expect the center of the storm to be closer to that area as we head into Sunday night, or tonight rather. And notice the winds here are the winds at Homa, 104 mile per hour winds, Thibodeau, Cutoff, Belle Chase. And this is closer to later on this afternoon. And I do expect this storm to slow down just a touch once on land. But this is a powerful system, folks. Again, I hope you have your hurricane plan in place right now because it's time to execute it. Already starting to see those outer bands moving into the area. And then as we head into tomorrow morning, I do expect that heavy tropical.
I remember you purchasing that home, Mr. Bob. How's the virus over there going? Is it slow? I mean, I know in Louisiana, as you know, it's bubbling hot right now. Sheena just got over the virus. She was sick with it for 2 weeks, and lucky no one else in the home got it. I was unable to go to work. I'm gonna miss a week of my rotation because of it. I was exposed.
The latest update, it looks like the hurricane force
Yep.
wind, it does extend about 40 miles out from the center of the storm. And again, the intense winds located along or around the eye wall of the system. So we're looking at Homa. And we'll see some of the strong winds in the metro New Orleans area as we head into later
Looks like Homa's just going to be on, depending what portion of Homa, but it looks like portions of Homa's just going to be on the outskirts of the storm.
And then as we head into this evening, we'll still be dealing with very strong winds across the area. I do think the wind again will start to subside until we get into the Tuesday. Here's another really nice representation of what to expect. You can see the areas highlighted in that white. Here's where we're expecting 100 to 120 mile per hour winds. Again, that's sustained, and some areas will be more than that. And we really need to update this here. 130. I'm thinking now 140.
So I'm right on the line of the blue and the dark red.
Michelle, when you mentioned that we're running out of time for the storm to intensify,
Yes,
you're talking about the time
all-
before it makes landfall.
A lot of the places in the Gulf have already shut down. The platform I've been working at, it's shut down. They sent the guys in day before yesterday. They're gonna be going back out Tuesday.
Warm water for it to continue to strengthen. And again, it's moving at a pretty good rate, and we are expecting rainfall as close as noon today. So it is.
We're showing in the area where I'm at 10 to 15 inches of storm surge. It looks like, or 10 to. That can't be right. 10 to 15 inches of rain.
Again, areas highlighted in yellow could receive between 10 to 15 inches of rainfall.
Okay.
Again, that is a whole
Yeah,
lot
we're in the
of
red to the dark red area, just below Lafayette. The way the hurricane's passing in, we're gonna miss the outermost hurricane winds.
We're starting to rain come down in the metro area here in the French Quarter. Our Meg Ferris is checking out conditions in Orleans Parish as well, Leslie. Meg, what are you seeing there?
They don't play with the hurricanes anymore in the Gulf. It's something like this starts coming in, they start moving people out fast.
It was really raining hard on it. See how wet my jacket is. And then the second y'all tossed to me, it stopped. And so, but the winds have definitely picked up. And if you look, I've been kind of gauging this by
floodgates are on the seawall here at Canal Boulevard and Lakeshore Drive. You can kind of see that it's still crashing up against there. And I would say with storm surge, we're still at that, I've been looking about that second step from the top. So the surge hasn't increased since the last time we talked, but it definitely has increased since we've been here, I guess since about 1 a.m. But typical bands coming through where they come and then it goes away. But I know we'll be seeing more and more of those. As we mentioned earlier, we as we were around the city, we really haven't seen anyone out. We saw a few people earlier checking out the waves, and some even kind of swimming a bit, but that was hours ago.
Yeah, it's picking up over there, Mr. Bob, and it should continue to steadily increase now with it pushing in like it is. The wind should start staying more steady, and it's gonna be very bad.
Also earlier I mentioned we were down by Irish Bayou trying to get to the Wrigley's area, and that area, of course, outside of the levee system is locked up tight. All those floodgates are closed, so you can't get to any of those areas. But that's it right about now, as we're experiencing bands coming back and forth, as Michelle and Peyton have been talking about. And the wind, not too bad. You can see it's not one of those where you're having a hard time standing up, but it is definitely that pre-hurricane feeling that all of us know all too well. Reporting live from the lakefront, Ned Farris, Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Exactly, Mr. Bob.
Nate, thank you very much. And Danny, monitor the following conditions in Terrebonne for us.
Yeah, let's get over to him. He wasn't downtown home.
We're in Terrebonne Parish, Main Street in downtown Homewood, to be precise, and there is not a soul in sight, not a single car on the road, not a person on the sidewalk, no business is open anywhere. You can take a look at this business right here. You see, this is a sign of what is expected here. A lot of wind. That's the big concern tonight. The wind more than the water. Parish officials say that wind is going to be strong and fierce, and that's what they are fearing the most. There has been a 6 o'clock curfew in place, but there was also a mandatory evacuation order that was in place as well. The good news is a lot of people do appear to be heeding that. As we said, there's no one here out and about right now. And that's what parish officials hope will remain until the storm passes. Reporting in downtown Houma, Danny Monteverdi, Eyewitness News.
All right, Danny, thank you very much. And Danny did mention the winds there. Of course, that is in the latest update we got on this storm. The biggest thing that we're concerned about when we checked in, when we came in at around midnight, Leslie, we were watching winds at 130 miles per hour. They're up to 140 to 145 now.
Yep.
So we continue to watch this storm intensify. And we have reporters all over. Let's get over to Tangipahoa with Erica Ferrando for the very latest there.
We have been speaking with residents and officials all across the North Shore as people are getting ready for Hurricane Ida. Let's start with what we know in St. Tammany Parish. People have been getting their supplies, food, and generators.
Putting up a water wall.
Right out the storm. In Old Mandeville, one resident bought a water tube that's typically used for agriculture and created a dam surrounding his home. He's hoping that will keep the water out.
Plastic is there to basically, I got 2 feet of waterproofing. And then when you put all that weight of the water, okay, it ain't going nowhere. So hopefully the water won't come into the house. For Katrina, we had 15 inches. For Isaac, we had 12. And so if I could just keep the house dry, I'm okay.
He's south of Monroe Street, which is under a voluntary evacuation. The Mandeville mayor claimed that and made that announcement Saturday afternoon. He also announced a curfew is in place starting at midnight in Mandeville. They expect around a 7-foot storm surge at the Mandeville lakefront and do not want people sightseeing when Lake Pontchartrain water overtops the seawall.
Please do not go to Mandeville Lakefront. We are not tolerating storm tourism during Hurricane Ida event. If you are at the Mandeville Lakefront after midnight tonight and you do not live in the vicinity, you will be experiencing Hurricane Ida from the Clink. We are not tolerating hurricane tourism in Mandeville anymore.
Now in Tangipahoa Parish, it was last minute preparations Saturday evening. People were filling up sandbags to protect their homes and businesses, and gas stations were busy.
run on 60 gallons of gas, and I need gas for a generator. I work in the oil and gas industry. We're considered essential employees. So we're going to hunker down and wait it out. Keep working and try to keep things going here. I lived in Katrina. The Isle passed right over, so I was in Mississippi when Katrina hit. So that's 16 years ago to the day, pretty much. So it's shaping up to be a Katrina-type storm. It seems like maybe a little less. We'll see. We'll know by the end of the night.
Don't think it's gonna be a little less. I think it's gonna be more than Katrina
There are safe shelters
as far as the winds.
The president said people should already be where they are planning to ride out the storm by now, as the wind will quickly strengthen into the morning. In Hammond, Eric Ferrando, Eyewitness News.
All right. And we do have crews in Baton Rouge watching the effects there, and just in case something happens here and we have to go up the air.
Yeah, definitely. We want to get over to our home building who's there. They're expecting impacts around the sunset.
We are at Louisiana Public Broadcasting. In New Orleans in the French Quarter, maybe there's a power outage or maybe there's some sort of damage that causes us to go off the air. We will still be able to bring the most up-to-date information regarding this storm. We also have our local weather expert here, just in case there is something, so you can bring us the latest forecasting from Baton Rouge. So you're able to do the same forecasting that you would do back at the studio here in Baton Rouge.
Yes, and it's kind of incredible. These are the exact same graphics that I would be looking at really close to me in New Orleans, and of course we're over here in Baton Rouge and able to see everything. Actually, Paul, as you mentioned, Baton Rouge may actually get some significant impacts from this storm too.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Part of the other reason that we are here is because this puts us in close proximity to any damage that might happen in Baton Rouge. That way we can get right over there and give you the latest information on that. So what kind of impacts do you think that we're going to see there?
Well, I think we're going to see the timing just a little bit lagging behind, of course, that we will see along the coast of Louisiana and the New Orleans area. But I did want to show you.
Yeah, you can actually show us.
Yeah, let's show you. Let's get into the graphics. And again, this is the same sort of graphic that I would use in New Orleans, and I'll just show you here. This is the wind field that we're looking at with the tropical storm force winds in yellow and orange, and then the hurricane force winds. This is projected in the reds. And so as we go forward in time, again, the lag time, of course, is that Rouge is not as close to the coast. But here as we Baton Rouge, I'm beginning to see some of the tropical storm force winds picking up. That would be midday Sunday through Sunday afternoon. And then, of course, the reds arriving around Baton Rouge.
We're looking at some tropical storm force winds once it comes on land. 40, 60 miles an hour.
That would be more likely Sunday evening, so we'll see roughly around sunset or maybe even a bit before, depending on how quickly the storm moves. But fun to bring these kind of things to you, Paul, because we're seeing exactly the same thing again that we forecasted in New Orleans here.
Definitely a lot more to watch when it comes to this. We will have more information on this throughout the remainder of our show. But for now, back to you.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. And we spoke with Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang just a few hours ago. And she says that you should already be where you are going to be right out the storm.
Where you are now is where you need to stay, and we just want to be safe. And this is we're ready to respond, and we're here at the Emergency Operations Center with all of our agencies, and our first responders are going to be out there as long as they possibly can until they have to come in. But we've done. I feel comfortable with what we've done. Ahead of time, I was down there in the feet, but we never want to see this coming more our way, and the latest track is difficult news for us, but we'll see how this goes. For those, especially inside the levee protection system, we need to work with our first responders. We need you to stay put. There are going to be dangerous hazards after this storm, whether it's trees down or flash flooding or electrical outages and just dangerous conditions. And we need to give our first responders the free access to all the roads without having to deal with other things, because that's going to be more accidents and more issues that they're going to have to deal with. And it's enough that they are having to deal with already. So if you're safe, stay put in your house. If you have food and your water, please let's give our first responders the time that they need, and we'll start putting our community back together.
Take a live look at Bourbon Street now to see where the conditions are like there. And as you can see, it's drizzling there at nobody is out on Bourbon Street, which is a rare sight in this city. Well, as I say that, you see a couple people and a cop car there. Please heed the mayor's advice. You need to be where you need to be. Hopefully people have evacuated. Let's get straight over to Michelle for the very latest. As we can see, conditions not too bad right now in the first quarter.
No, not too bad, but it will continue to, as I mentioned before, go downhill throughout the rest of the morning and afternoon. Right now along the coastline, we are starting to see the outer rain bands. We're looking at moderate to heavy rain in portions. We're looking at along the coastline of Terrebonne Parish, also the Fouche, extending into Clackamas Parish. But right now we are dealing with light drizzle in the French Quarter and New Orleans. Again, that's going to start picking up as the system continues to move inland. So as of the latest update, as of 4 a.m., we're looking at stronger winds, 140 mile per hour winds, or actually stronger wind gusts, rather, 165 miles per hour wind gusts. That's Category 5 status. Again, the versatile winds there, so that those very strong winds, a powerful hurricane there, and we're definitely seeing that well-defined eye. It is moving to the northwest at 15 miles per hour, so the rate of this system hasn't changed. And right now, the location of the center, we're looking at 75 miles south of Mountain River. So the motion of this system here, it is going to continue to push that water, that warm water, along the coastline here. And I'll show you the storm surge graphic in just a moment, but it is expected, again, to make landfall as a major hurricane, a Category 4 hurricane, with maximum sustained winds of 145 miles per hour. So the National Hurricane Center will have bumped up the intensity when this thing makes landfall. And it is going to slow down a touch. We're actually looking at heavy tropical rain through much of the day, which is going to cause huge problems for our area across southeast Louisiana, and then eventually heading to the northeast as we head into Monday afternoon. But I do think that the weather will become a bit better as we head into our Tuesday. We're looking at heavy rain throughout the rest of today, leading into tomorrow afternoon. So let's go ahead and take a look at the radar. Already starting to track those outer rain bands here, the heavy rain north of Eurus, Galliano, seeing heavy rain. Homa is light right now. New Orleans, we're looking at moderate to heavy rain in a few spots, especially east. South of Slidell will be raining shortly. But in the North Shore, again, we're dry, but that is going to change within the hour as that system gets closer, the center of the system gets closer and closer to the area. Again, we're looking at landfall around noon, probably a little bit after noon, later on today, somewhere along Terrebonne Parish, and it could potentially make a landfall along, it looks like Clackamas Parish, again, around noon, around 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon, again, as a Category 4 hurricane. You can see that forecast line right there. So it could potentially jog to the east or to the west. At this point, we're still looking at strong winds, damaging winds across the area, heavy rain, and the winds are already starting to pick up as we take a look at the winds and the wind gusts. Right now, we're looking at 33 mile per hour winds against sustained Grand Isles, and that's going to continue to pick up. And we're 48 mile per hour wind gusts. Eurus, it's pretty breezy out there, 24 mile per hour winds, but notice the wind gusts really starting to pick up, almost 50 miles per hour. Galliano is breezy. Shell Beach, 26 mile per hour winds with 31 mile per hour wind gusts. So as you take a look at the storm surge potential, again, we just updated this. We're looking at 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Again, that is from Morgan City along the coastline there.
I'm gonna be getting out of here in about 5 minutes, so I'm sharing the link in the chat for the YouTube where this stream's coming from. If y'all want to continue following it or looking at it, it's they should have some really good information about what's going on and the direct area of where the storm's going to be hit.
8 to 12 feet as you look at St. Bernard. Again, this is along the coast, and we did up to a storm surge potential here. Lake Pontchartrain to 5 to 8 feet. So areas along the lake really need to watch out because coupled with the heavy tropical rain that we are forecasting, again, we're looking at flash flooding across the area. And then as we look at Terrebonne Parish between 8 to 12 feet, again, that is the
Thank you, Mr. Bob.
We are looking at a lot of water heading our way throughout the rest of the day here. So we'll go ahead and break it down parish by parish. So Metro New Orleans, we're looking at rainfall between 6 to 10 inches. That hasn't changed much, but the wind.
Thank you, Jim.
We're looking at maximum sustained winds between 90 to 110. Again, damaging winds. So we'll see some freeze down, widespread power outages, some structural damage. And notice the wind gusts, 120 mile per hour wind gusts. That is strong. And then again, the storm surge, as I mentioned before, we're looking at 7 to 11 feet. Again, that is along the lake. As we move to the river parishes, we're looking
Thanks,
at
Ryan.
winds between 100 to 120 mile per hour winds with wind gusts between between
we're not planning on leaving. We still got a little bit more picking up to do outside. Not a whole bunch, but we're not planning on getting into anything major.
So we're looking at a lot of rain, and as I said before, we are expecting this system to slow down a touch. So this is going to be a long duration of.
We got some cucumbers to pick.
Rain. It will get intense in a few spots. We get a burst of heavy rain in a few areas. It is going to cause some big time problems across our viewing area. As we head to the bayou parishes, I do think these areas will see the brunt of the storm. We're looking at rainfall between 5 to 10 inches. Locally higher amounts, wind 120 to 140 miles per hour. But notice the wind gusts, 160 mile per hour wind gusts. And again,
devastating wind gusts. It's going to be bad.
Coastal areas. So that's Cocodrie, and we're looking at Galliano cut up to potentially see those strong wind gusts as well. But again, the storm surge, we're looking at catastrophic storm surge along our coastal areas as that wall of water is pushed in. Now, as we head to St. Bernard and Plaquemines Parish, we're looking at rainfall amounts between 4 to 8 inches of rain. We might see higher amounts in a few spots, potentially 10, even 11 inches. Winds between 110 to 130 miles per hour, and wind gusts of 150 mile per hour winds. So again, we're looking at a very strong wind in those areas. As we head to the Mississippi coast, we're looking at strong winds as well, between 45 to 55 miles per hour winds with higher wind gusts.
All right, Michelle, it's time now, 4:28. We have to take a quick break. We appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much. Y'all pray for the people in the path of the hurricane. It's going to be devastating. It's going to be devastating for a lot of people. We're looking to be pretty safe where we're at. We're going to be in the minor portions of tropical storm winds, and we're prepared for it. We have food, we have gas. If the electricity goes out, worried about my daughter in Baton Rouge. They're going to take a pretty good hit. My other daughter, she's not far from here, got the oil change in her generator yesterday, and they got their stuff set up at their home. So it could be it will be a serious situation from Houma to New Orleans, and in the general area around there, from basically Franklin to almost the Mississippi coast, Mississippi, Louisiana state line. So keep everybody in the path of the storm in y'all prayers. It's gonna be serious. So y'all take care. It's hard to say, but it's gonna be bad. See y'all later.